Hey guys, it's Bonnie. Long time no see. I'm really sorry that videos have been pretty much non-existent in December. It's been kind of a shitty month, but I'm hoping that January and the new year will be better. So without further ado, let's get into this video, which is my favorite books of 2015. I went through the list of books that I read this year, which was around 50, and I picked out 10 books that I loved the most. They are kind of sort of in order, but not entirely. I just put in order kind of for the sake of this video, but obviously depending on my mood things could switch around, especially when we get to the top, because it's harder to pick up there because I read a lot of books that I really loved this year. But yeah, let's go. Coming in at number 10 is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I know I took forever to read this book, but I finally got to it this year and it was pretty darn good. Obviously I'm pretty sure I gave it 5 stars. I think I gave most of these books, if not all of them, 5 stars. But yeah, if you don't know what Fangirl is about, I don't know where you've been, but it's about a girl named Kath who starts college and she is a fangirl. She writes fan fiction. She's really awkward and has anxiety, and it just really captures kind of the lifestyle, I guess, of someone with anxiety and who's also a fangirl. And so that was really nice to read about because, you know, I can relate to say the least. Next, I have Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson. This is a super fun contemporary novel about 2 best friends, Sloane and Emily, and one day Sloane disappears and she leaves Emily this list of things that she has to do to kind of break out of her shell. Once again, this is a book that I could really find myself relating to the main character, Emily, because she's kind of very reserved. I'm very reserved. This is the second book that I've read by Morgan Matson, and I can definitely say that I'm a fan of hers, and this book so far is my favorite. Next, we have another Rainbow Rowell book, and that is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, obviously. This is very interesting that this book is on my list because originally I wasn't even going to read this book. This book, if you don't know, is like book Inception because it is based on the fan fiction or the story that Kath is obsessed with in Fangirl, the other book that I talked about. It's basically like it's either her fan fiction or it's like fan fiction of the book she writes fan fiction for. I don't know. It has something to do with that. It's about a guy named Simon Snow. He is a mage, which is like a wizard. It's very reminiscent, purposely so, of Harry Potter. And the reason I didn't think I was going to read it is because I didn't really like the Simon Snow parts that were in Fangirl. But this came out and everybody was raving about it. So I decided to pick it up and try it out. And I really loved it. I thought it was going to be way too similar to Harry Potter, but it wasn't. Like, there was definitely a lot of similarities, especially in the beginning, but as the book goes on, it just gets better and better and becomes more of its own. I really love Simon and Baz and their relationship. It was wonderful. Coming in at number 7 is Yes Please by Amy Poehler. This is just kind of like an autobiography of Amy's life, obviously written by her and told by her, hence autobiography. This was just so good. It was funny, but like also mostly just interesting. Like, I didn't read it for the humor. I read it because I really was interested in Amy Poehler's life and the life that she has lived. It's just really cool and fascinating to learn about. If you pick this one up, I highly suggest getting the audiobook as well as the physical copy, because the physical copy is beautiful and it's like really aesthetically pleasing. Like, there's pictures. It's just really aesthetically pleasing. But the audiobook is great too because it is narrated by Amy herself, and she has guest narrators like her parents and Seth Meyers, and the last chapter is read in front of a live audience, and it's just really cool and it was great. So obviously that's why it's on this list. Next, I have Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn, or Gillian Flynn. I still haven't learned how to say that, which I need to, because she's definitely became one of my favorite authors with this book. This book is so messed up. It's just messed up. That's the best way to put it. But I absolutely loved it. Definitely a trigger warning for like self-harm and just bunch of other stuff. Basically, it's about this journalist who goes to her hometown to cover this kind of mystery that is unfolding there, and her hometown holds a lot of negative things from her past, and so she has to deal with that, you know, going back to her hometown and dealing with all of that, as well as getting kind of tangled in this mystery, and it is just so wonderful. Gillian Flynn is an amazing writer, and yeah, I've read almost all of her books now. I just need to read Dark Places, and I will certainly read anything she writes in the future. This was so good. Next is a pretty new favorite, but I had to put it on the list, especially this high coming at, I think this is number 5. I just read all the books that are currently out in this series at the end of this month, and that is Gathering Darkness, which is the 3rd book in the Fallen Kingdom series by Morgan Road. I obviously read Fallen Kingdoms first, and because this is the 3rd book in a series, I can't tell you what happens in this, but Fallen Kingdoms is about these 3 kingdoms, and it's high fantasy, and there's political drama going on with people wanting to capture other kingdoms. I really enjoyed the 1st book, but it did kind of feel like a setup for most of the series. And the 2nd book I also really enjoyed, but it is the 3rd book here that really hooked me. This book is so amazing. So many things happened. It was just gripping, and I was just reading and reading and reading, and I am in love with this series now. I can officially say that. One of my new favorite series, and I'm sad that I have to actually wait now for the next, like, I think 2 more books in the series, but this is a really good one. You need to get on it if you haven't, because so good. Quick honorable mention to the 4th book though, Frozen Tides, for like most beautiful cover. Holy crap, I'm obsessed with this cover. Coming in at number 4 is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. This is another fantasy series that I read this year, and I would definitely say that Crown of Midnight is my favorite. It was so good. This series is so good. The characters, the plot, the action, it's all so wonderful. I will say that if it wasn't for the character things that happened in the 4th book, which is Queen of Shadows, the book that came out this year, I probably would have picked Queen of Shadows as my favorite, because the plot and the action, like, I loved that more than any of the others. Like, it was so good. But there was definitely issues with it, so I'm choosing Crown of Midnight to be the representation for the series, because I only pick 1 book per series when I'm doing a favorite books list. But yes, Crown of Midnight. I don't think I need to talk about this series, because I'm sure all of you know what it is. But if you don't and you're living under a rock, it is about an assassin named Selena Saradathian, who is chosen from the, like, prisons that she is in to fight to be the king's champion. And to think about that being the 1st book to where it is now is insane. But yeah, if you haven't picked it up yet, give it a shot. The 3rd book on my list, I didn't even realize that I read in 2015, but I did. I read it at the very beginning, and that is Blue Lily, Lily Blue by Maggie Stiefvater, the 3rd book in the Raven Cycle series. And it's amazing. I feel like I've talked about this series a good amount, or maybe I haven't, but this series is one of my all-time favorite series. It's amazing. The characters are amazing. I'm sure you've heard about it too. It's really popular on BookTube lately, but I will say, I saw it on Tumblr first, so shout out to Tumblr. You are on top of it, at least the people that I follow. But yeah, it's great. 1st book is The Raven Boys, if you haven't read it. It's about these boys and a girl who's from a family of psychics, and they're searching for this dead king. That doesn't even sound that interesting, or maybe it does, but it's really good. The characters are amazing, the writing is amazing, and the 4th and final book comes out this year. Read this series and get caught up. Now, for the top 2 spots, it was very hard to pick which one was number 1 and which one was number 2, so depending on my mood, these could be pretty interchangeable. But coming in at number 2 is Jellico Road, which is really On the Jellico Road. I don't know why this version doesn't say that, by Melina Marchetta. This is a contemporary novel about a girl named Taylor, and it's kind of hard to explain. It's just a beautiful story, and obviously one of my favorite books of the year. I loved it so much. I think if you want a better explanation of me talking about this book, I would go watch my review, because I did review it. I'll link that down below. But it was just such a beautiful book. And I went into it, I was reading it, I was so confused, like I didn't understand what was happening. But then it hits a point where you like get it, because Melina Marchetta, this wonderful, beautiful author who can write amazing sentences, just connects everything, and you're just like, oh. And I cried, and I laughed, and I cried, and I laughed, and I loved this book. If you haven't read it, please read it. It's just, you don't even need to know what it's about. I think it's one of those books that's better to just go into it. So one of my all-time favorites ever now, not just of this year, but ever. And And finally, we've come to my favorite book of 2015. It was one of my most anticipated books of 2015, and that is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I was a huge fan of the Grisha trilogy. It's one of my favorite series with some of my favorite characters. So when she announced that she was writing this book, which also takes place in the Grishaverse, I was like, woo! And then it came out and it beat my expectations. Like, I had high expectations, but it beat them. It was so good. Basically, it's about these outcasts that come together and to pull off a heist, and they're all kind of misfits, but it's so good. So wonderful. The characters are amazing. The characters are why I love the book. Like, the heist and the action and everything is awesome. So entertaining, and it keeps you gripping on the edge of your seat. But the characters are just so amazing. And I love every single one of them, and it's perfect. It's a perfect book. There's nothing wrong with this book. Maybe that's me being overhyping it, but I don't care. It is so good, and you need to read it. Actually, I did think of something that I don't like about this book. I don't like that it's only going to be a duology. I think that is unfair. Miss Bardugo, you're only giving us a duology, and I want so much more, but what can you do? So those were my favorite books of 2015. I cannot believe that 2015 is over. Like, wow. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video. I'll try to make it, you know, quicker than like a month. Bye.